Hello everybody, Bearded Brush, part 2 of building my Dale army. So, first video I went over sort of my, oh god, what did I do? So did my original 12 models, which was Girion, the captain, and the 10 original warriors, which I painted back in, 6 years ago. Then sort of brought up to speed on the new models. So I've added the new warrior models, sort of the things I remembered from painting the original ones from 6 years ago to the ones that I've now painted recently, including these guys. And I'm sort of just going through the things I've learned, the colours for the details of the edging of the cloaks, the reds, how my wet palette, which I recommend anyone gets one. How it seems to have made the paints much more smoother for transitional purposes, for highlights. And what I wanted to do was sort of give you guys a video of like an in-between stage of the models, because I haven't had a chance to record very much recently. I haven't been showing much of my work in progress compared to my Azog's Legion army. You got to see a lot of progress. You got a lot of things. You got to see a lot of things happening as they were happening, or as I'd just done them. So that's what I want to try and sort of get back to that. So here we are with 10 models, which is sort of halfway. Well, I'll say 10, 12 actually, but ignore these guys here. But 10 models that are halfway through their process. So go for the swordsman. So you should see. Excuse me. You should see. There you go. So here we go. So the skin's not been added yet. The hair, the edges of the mail come off the back of the helmet. I haven't done the edge of that yet. I'll do the hair first, and then I'll just go around that tiny, tiny edge afterwards. I'll get the hair. I mean, the hair on some of these models is so, it's not even hardly worth doing sometimes. But it's there. I've got to do it. You've got the chin strap as well, coming across his face just there. You see that? That needs to be painted in. I believe I used Rhinex hide, or if not, I used Mornfane brown for that. Just as a simple card. I didn't even bother highlighting it. It's just so such fine fiddliness. There's no need to. But I'll get them bits done. Obviously the face again. The faces are detailed. I'd love to get as much detail as I can out of them, but I find them so awkward to get to, and there's such little to work with. I particularly find it quite tricky to really make them pop. So I'll give it a basic coat. I'll give it one basic coat of a flesh undercoat, and then I'll do a highlight sort of after, just to sort of pick out the cheeks and whatnot, things like that. Do you know, I think half the trouble I've got a new holder for my pad and for my phone, and if I don't get the light just right, it just can't focus. The camera can't then focus on the models, and I do wonder if it's the way that the angle of my holder is. But anyway, by the by. So in my previous video I said about how I'd worked on the colours to get these like edge highlights, the cloak trim done. So this is the base coat of that cloak trim, which is lovely colour. And what I'm going to do is give it one highlight. So I'll do one highlight. With the highlight, I then re-edge everything basically. It's quite a thin coat. It's thin in terms of clarity of the colour. It's not a thick colour. It's quite transparent, translucent. Is that the term? So you still get some of the original paint showing through once I've painted over it, but there is that. It gives that highlight where it needs it, which is quite nice. To get this colour shade, funnily enough, I actually dug out the paints just for this video. So I use a mixture of Ungor flesh, Tau light ochre, a little bit of Troll Slayer orange, Troll Slayer orange, yeah man, there you go, and the tiniest smidgen of Uriel yellow. A good portion, 2 and 50-50 this, and then I add a little dollop of this and a tiny dollop of the yellow, and that gives me that colour. Then for the highlight, what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of a Shabti bone, or there's two colours I use. I sort of varied it slightly when I was experimenting. So I used a little bit more Uriel yellow and a Shabti bone. I think the Shabti bone works better because it pales the colour, but it keeps the original tone there, whereas the Uriel yellow starts to add a bit too much yellow, so you start to create a new colour from the shade, which isn't quite what I wanted. But it did the job, don't get me wrong. But I felt the Shabti bone, because it's quite a thin colour against that translucent sort of shade, it kind of complemented the highlight better, I felt, than what yellow or white. White would pale it out too much. The yellow started to add too much yellow to it. The Ashepti bone was kind of a neutral colour, which lightened the shade to create a highlight without changing it to a different colour, if that makes sense. It's all a bit, you know, I know that people use colour wheels and things. I don't know if you've seen it in other videos on YouTubers. They use like colour wheels to try and match the colours up, and I need to get one of them. But I am starting to find that Ashepti bone seems to be a good colour to help create highlights, which don't start to change colour too much, which is handy. Obviously, it has its flaws. It will eventually pale the colour too much and makes it too sort of watered down and But I think if you use sparingly, you can get quite a nice sort of highlight shade, you know, something to make the final colour pop and stuff. But yeah, saying that, so again, these guys have all got I do the cloaks first. I then do the armour, the chainmail. The chainmail had a lot of lead belcher, very, very gently dry brushed on. And then known oil, lead belcher again, tiniest drop of watered down known oil, and then a very teeny weeny mix of, what is it called? Runefang steel. There you go. And that's done. Helmets are lead belcher. I then paint the gold on, so you can get a bit of a blur of the colours. I then use known oil all over it, quite heavy, not too heavy, but quite a reasonable coating. And then I then use the Runefang steel, just to dollop the biggest parts of silver, of where the helmet really is, not so much in the corners, in the edges there's no point, but in the big portions I use Runefang steel. And then go over it again with the Skinner's gold I use, by the way, just to pick out the highlights. And that seems to be enough to give the helmet a nice crisp layer of highlight and definition, so that's cool. I had to work hard on some of these male neck guards, back head guards off the helmet, because the holes aren't quite there, so I did sort of use the very fine point of my I think it's called X-Acto blade, scalpel, that's what I call it. I think people use it by different terms, but the real fine, super sharp knife, I use the point of that just to sort of twist and drill little grooves in to try and help with the male dots seem a bit more defined. But yeah, these guys are sort of pretty much complete. It's taken a hell of a long time to get them there. I need to do some highlights on their belts, just one little line of Rhinox hide with the Ashepti bone. And again, with the boots as well, very slight highlight. I never overly bother highlighting the boots too much or the shoes, because they tend to get lost in the bases, or the bases I do anyway. I do tend to put quite a lot of stuff on the bases. But I find that, you know, sort of from this point up, that is what you're seeing in the model. The rest of it, you just don't look at, really. I don't anyway. I can understand it from a display point of view or competition, but for standard modelling, gaming, I should say, you know, lots of details, great, yeah, by all means go for it, but don't waste time on a set of shoes and like the lower parts of trousers even, because it just doesn't get noticed unless you pick each one up. But yeah, these guys are basically done. It's just the skin now. Highlights on their gloves for their fingers. Highlights on this, on the colour of the cloak edging. Then we're done. That is it. So that's the progress so far on these guys. Again, like I said before on the previous video, they're great models, but I have a love-hate with these guys because there's so much detail. I mean, just on that, look, you've got gold bits of their belts, you've got the lapels, the tassely things, you've got the little clasp up here, you've got this little sort of chest guard, sort of clasp, whatever that bit is there. I'd say it's almost like an armoured bit of neck guard or chest guard for like almost the solar plexus, I'm not sure, but you got the golden edge highlights of the, what are they called? Is it the Greaves? No, the Greaves are the lower half, aren't they? What is that? The forearm, you know, armour. You've got that edge in there, you've got the brown, you've got all this like fluffy stuff that goes all around the sides of that, around the hat, around the top of the boots. There's so much fine little bits of detail here, there and everywhere, which is wonderful for the models. The models look fantastic for that reason, but for me, as a painter, I do find them a hell of a job to get motivated. I think, oh God. And also I found dry brushing the fluffy bits on the helmets, on these forearm, on the vem braces. There you go, vem braces we got there. On the vem braces and on the boots as well. Dry brushing that fluff is just, man, I found it soul destroying. That's one thing I did not enjoy was the fluff. But they're taking shape. That's what I'm most pleased with. I've got the trumpeter. I did the three from the new command set are awesome, as I've said, I'm sure before. I absolutely love these models in general. But what I did to try and spice it up a bit, I'd save one of the special models, as I call them, for each set of 10 warriors. So in the previous video, I showed you the banner. I saved him as like a little sort of highlight model to enjoy, to break up the mold slightly. This guy, the trumpeter musician, he is the breakup model for these guys. So I'm getting really bored of these guys. So I go, right, put on some different music and really crack on with this guy and give him some like special treatments. And for that reason, as you can see, he has had the special treatment, and he's also got the highlights on the edge of the cloak there. That's as far as I got the highlights for this group of gang. It's just this dude here. The trumpet, I hope it's come out well. It looks like it has. I wanted to give it try and give it a roundedness. So you see you've got a lighter shade of highlight, a darker shade of highlight, and then you've got the original coat sort of poking through in places. I tried to wet blend that as best I could, and I think it's come out well. I've also tried to go for the weaved effect of the thread, of the stitching of the little trumpeter's, I don't know, decoration. The official word for that eludes me. But yeah, I've done that on there to give a bit more detail as well. And yeah, and it's been great fun to paint. Funny how he has such long hair that sticks out under the mail, yet the other models don't have that. Just a little observation, just interesting. Bit of artistic flair for the modelers, I suppose, that come up with these guys, which I do not blame them for. But these are great models. Great models. And I do find that the details more defined on these guys, which does help paint them a bit better. And that's basically it for these guys so far. This one I'm saving till the absolute last of my Dale Army modelling awesomeness. And that's because he's obviously the captain. I've given him the pose of drawing the sword rather than having him point the sword, because I've got 3 of the old school captains with all their swords up in the air. So I wanted to give this dude the different look, because it would make a change. If not, they're all going to be pointing swords or lifting swords in the air. It does get a bit generic, you know. I don't want that. But I'm going to give this guy a lot of attention, a lot of detail. You know, really making pop as the final model sort of thing to complete the army at this point. I have got the Wind Lance, but I'm going to save that for a separate project as such. I just want to get the core infantry of this army done. And because this, I should say actually, this whole, I don't think I mentioned the first one, this whole army is going to be based on the Hobbit timeline of Dale with Girion and things like that. I have the other models of the newer range for the War of the North. These guys will be models, well, these guys will be warriors for that army. But I'm going to paint the Royal Guard and the King and the Prince as a separate sort of army building video, if that makes sense. So they will be part of this series, but in a different theme, if that makes sense. So yeah, so this guy will be the last model to paint up, and once he's done my Dale army for the Hobbit timeline, it will be completed. I'm going to give this guy a decent base as well. On a side note, I am a little bit frustrated with GW's packing, Forge World's packing, the same company, aren't they? But these obviously are meant to have little points here on the helmet, you know, Kaiser style, like the German World War One style, with a point on the helmet. Unfortunately, in the box, it's gone. It got snapped off. Now, I know people say, oh, I could just drill a hole and pin something. I could, yes, I could. But that is not the greatest point with which to then actually try and drill something into a helmet to then put a point in. That is a mission to do that, and for the cost of them, it's a little bit annoying I've got to go to that effort. It's a shame they didn't use a little bit of foam to lay the models in, just to try and help, because as we know, Forge World resin is not the best. It's not the worst, but it's not the best, and that's such a brittle point there, and it's such a shame that got snapped off. I did try to do something with this guy, and as you can see, it didn't work. It's a bit knobbly. So I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to bother trying to pin it, because I feel if I try and do anything there to try and drill a hole, to do something, I'm going to lose a bit more detail on the top of the helmet either side, through either flattening it off to put a point in with a needle or something, to then use that as the hole to guide through the drill, to then put something else in, which in itself, trying to find something to represent a point to put in there is going to be a job, because, well, even like when I've tried to eye it up with like normal drawing pins or just a bit of wire or something, the size doesn't quite look right. So you're kind of stuck with either having this real thick bit of metal sticking out your helmet, which gives them a point, but then looks sort of off scale. or you're going to lose a load of the detail on the top because you had to sort of try and level it off, and then the drill might go off at an angle and you might lose more detail. So I'm just going to sort of cut my losses and leave it like that. But it's a shame that, dang, it's just a shame GW couldn't have tried to do something. I appreciate, obviously, it's fine injection molding is harder, but it's a shame they couldn't have had like a bit of plastic that just went around them like that, just to sort of shield that point. You know, there could have been like a mold injecting point there, so I just come around just to try and protect it, or just laid it in the foam, something. You know, I do build model kits for like World War Two and things and that, and they have some seriously, seriously fine points and a far more complicated kit to build, and they never have the issues like these guys have. But it's a different style, I suppose. But that's one little thing out of what is otherwise an awesome kit of models. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now with this. Hopefully in the next couple of days we'll get these guys finished off. I'm going to do another video sort of showing the time up. I want to start work on the bases next to jazz it up, because once these warriors are done, I'm not painting any more Dale warriors. I have 30 that'll have to do. If I have to buy an extra sort of few of V-Bay to sort of round up any numbers, so be it. But these are a love-hate army to paint. I'm going to love them when they're done, but I hate the process. Let me know what you guys think of them. If you have any questions on what colours I'm using, any sort of tips or anything, any sort of way of sort of beating the monotony of of painting these guys. Do you guys have the same thing, and do you guys find that you will look at the images on Google Images from the films or whatever, and try and match up the colours and stuff? I'm really guilty of that. I'll really look at a picture. The Lothlorien elves, the Fellowship of the Ring pictures where the Lothlorien elves are sort of double checking all the Morai Goblin carcasses and corpses, which obviously wasn't in the film, but was obviously filmed to some extent. I use them as good sort of images to sort of see how I'm going to paint my Lothlorien elves. As an example, do you guys do that? Do you sort of try and look at pictures and try and match them as best you can to the film? Do you just match the colours GW provide? Do you do your own thing? Do you do your own style? For example, I do plan on trying to do my own little style of elves in more of an autumnal colour. I do like the autumnal colours as mentioned in my Gundabad army, and also in my Glorfindel little video I did of Glorfindel and sort of an alternate paint scheme, which is that autumnal colour. And he came out really well, actually. I must say so myself. He did come out really well. I was pleased with the colours. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you guys are up to. Thanks for watching as always. Do appreciate it. I had a few new subscribers the last couple of weeks, 2 weeks, which is always awesome. I always find that really cool. So yeah, drop me a line. Let me know you're getting on. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.